Okay, so I really like the way that this question is presented. In order to see what's possible, don't you also have to see where the gaps or the problems are? So you're creating a both and. So yes, both are true. The quite often what ends up happening is that in our vision, our desire and our imagination of seeing the dream, seeing what's possible in the world, then we spend we spend so much time creating all the obstacles or saying, well, this obstacle could happen, this obstacle could happen, I'm not good enough for that, or I'm not good at that, so I can't make that thing possible. When we focus on the vision, when we focus on what is possible, the obstacles are going to present themselves, but we are so committed to what that vision is that we're going to be able to overcome those obstacles. My experience is that quite often we presuppose what the obstacle is going to be, and that may or may not ever be true. It may not ever be an obstacle. We come to that conclusion based on history. We come to that conclusion based on past experiences, or other people's experiences, and we feed ourselves all the reasons why it won't work. And that is, it's a great question, and it's presented in a great way. So when we focus on the vision, we are inevitably going to discover things that aren't going to work, mechanics that aren't going to work. One of the things that I love about making independent film or low budget theater is we have a vision, and no matter what, we're going to make that happen. And quite often we're faced with an obstacle that we didn't see coming, we didn't foresee. And what happens is we shift how we relate to that obstacle, we shift how we work around that obstacle, so that we can in turn become and make happen our vision. So this is in response to a question I proposed, which is, do you see what's wrong first, or do you see what's possible first? And that block of what's wrong is always going to be in the way of that vision. Those are the excuses, the reasons why you can't, the reasons why it hasn't worked before. And we know intuitively what is not working. And quite often, that thing that is not working is in the way of you getting your vision accomplished, getting what you know is possible accomplished. So my encouragement is to have the vision first, know what's possible, imagine it, let it live inside of you. Imagination works so much better, even better than vision, because you're only using one sense with vision. You're using your eyesight. I see this happening. But when we use our imagination, we utilize all of our senses. How does it feel? What do we see around us? What are the smells? What does it smell like when I accomplish that? One of my big visions in life is and was to have a entertainment space outside where I had fire pits and I had a garden and I had multiple areas where people could experience joy and have food on a grill. Well, I accomplished that, and it was because of the vision. And I would see people laughing in joy. I would see people experiencing connectedness, and I didn't know how that was going to happen. I certainly didn't have the money to make that happen at the time. I certainly didn't have the knowledge of where or what that's going to look like. And then one day I just realized that the house that I was living in LA had 2 fire pits, we had gardens, we had a hot tub that we built during COVID, we had an outdoor shower. It was a magical, magical place. And I realized in hindsight that that was the vision and the imagination at work. I had accomplished it, and it was extraordinary. And now I have other visions, other imagination contexts to work with. When I am in the movement toward that, making that imagination or making that vision happen, I am met with obstacles. And I didn't know that that was going to be the obstacle that was going to be in the way. And it presented itself. So intuitively, I know to move that obstacle, that given circumstance, person, place, thing, object, whatever. I know if it's not working, no matter how I shift how I relate to that, no matter how many times I communicate with that person, place, or thing, that you get to shift, no matter what, at some point, if that doesn't change, then I change it. I move it out of my life because I'm headed toward a vision. I'm headed toward an imagination. I think the succinct answer to this question is ask yourself, what is your imagination? What is inside your imagination? What is the thing that you want to accomplish? And this is intimate and micro for your personal life. It's also the thing that is not working in our political landscape. For example, the Democratic Party is very much has for a very long time been retaliatory. It has been reactionary. It hasn't had a succinct vision for what they want to accomplish. The far right has. Now it's been undercurrent. It's been led by a minority few that have gone behind the scenes and maneuvered and utilized division to make that happen. So the obstacle to us as a collective accomplishing what we want is a lack of imagination, a lack of vision, and a lack of being in possibility. And we think, we feed ourselves into the talking points of how are we going to pay for universal health care? Well, we already pay for health care. We pay far more than any other country on the planet. We are already paying for that. And we don't get the same benefits. The same with public education. They say, well, it doesn't work. So they break it and then say it doesn't work. There are reasons for that because the conservative right is wanting to move into education that is privatized, and it's only going to be for a select few people. A couple examples, and I know I'm kind of going on tangents, but the end result is have that imagination, know what's possible. And in terms of how it relates to other people in your life, it's very easy, and it's a defense mechanism. I'm speaking from my experience. You can ask yourself the question of whether or not this is true for you. When we are on the defense and we only see what's wrong with a person, I've seen it with my students, I've seen it with people that I've worked with. If I'm only focused on what's wrong with them, there's a bazillion things I could point out that's wrong. If I'm working with someone like a student, let's just use that as an example, and I see this magic in them, I see this really great, amazing possibility that they feel like they are connected to, they just don't believe it themselves because they've also given themselves these obstacles or they don't know a path that works for them. If I'm holding that possibility up to them relentlessly, consistently, and seeing the magic in them and seeing how powerful they are and reminding them consistently, they're going to overcome those obstacles. If I'm pointing out what's wrong all the time, they're going to focus on the thing that's wrong. Now, I'm a kid that had ADHD growing up. I felt like I could never do anything right. So a lot of this is coming from that experience. And I also knew that I wanted to travel the world. I also knew that I wanted to do theater and I wanted to do film. And I knew in my heart of hearts, many obstacles came into play while I was on that path. And I was able to overcome those. So I hope that answers your question. And this is going to be a part of a more in-depth series. You guys can follow me on Twitch at BringItOn or Coach_Brion Devell. You can follow me there. You can also follow me on my new YouTube channel, and I'll have that up going pretty soon. Okay. All love. I hope that answers your question. And if it doesn't, then feel free to ask again and I'll clarify. Okay. Ciao.